All right, thank you guys so much for being here. We have Krishna Bansa and Rick Laib, the two Republican candidates for the U.S. Congressional 11th District, which includes much of Joliet. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. We're just going to go over some questions here that the voters would want to know about. First off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from. Don't list your whole resume, but also just tell me why are you running for this position? Mr. Bansa, we can start with you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for hosting us, giving an opportunity to present our views. My name is Krishna Bansa, again running as a Republican for District 11, Congressional District 11. My story is a real American story. I came to this country around 22 years back with just a few $100s in my pocket and a dream. And this is here. I worked hard, and with the opportunities I received here, I was able to build a great business that has created hundreds of jobs, and as well as raised my beautiful family. Married for 26 years, two daughters. Elder one is in college, younger is a high schooler. And along the way, I started getting involved in the public service. That's something I really believe should do, giving back. I have been involved working with I've been working with the Planning and Zoning Commission of Naperville. Worked on many school and nonprofits and cities, multiple areas. What I realized as I looked at the landscape around, we are drifting more and more towards socialism. And that's something, I saw socialism firsthand. On the other side, how bad it is, the devastating effect of it. I've met many people from other countries, the socialist countries, and I said, this cannot be happening, and I need to do something about it. Continuing what I've been doing, I just put myself in, and I'm running to take care of it. Overall, I'm a very conservative candidate, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-religious freedom, looking to uphold our Constitution, and looking to really protect our values.
Okay, Mr. Laib?
Great, thank you, and thank you again for having us here. And my name is Rick Lyon, lifelong resident of Joliet, born in Joliet, lived here my whole life, I live it here. I'm a sergeant with the Will County Sheriff's Office. I have 23 years there. When I was in high school, I enlisted in the United States Army Reserves, so most of my life has been about some type of public service, some level of public service. Been very active in my time at the Sheriff's Office. Very proud of my career that I've had over the last 23 years. I've always been interested in politics, but kind of at the bystander level. I've always watched. I have been an active voter, and I considered myself informed until I started kind of paying attention to different things and watching different bills come out that I was not pleased to see get passed. And the reason I'm running, that's why I'm running, is because I'm unsatisfied with the way that I am currently being represented. And I think that's really why anybody should run. If they're not satisfied with their representation, then they should run for office. And so that's what I'm doing. I run as a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-free market candidate in the 11th, and that's what I hope to accomplish.
Great. Okay, so first off, let's just get into some policy issues here. What would you say is the biggest issue that either you guys want to go to Congress to address, or that maybe you guys hear from voters as you're out meeting people? And Mr. Laib, we can start with you.
I always start with abortion. As long as it's legal, I don't know why we are not, why we are allowing that. We cannot, that's going to be the biggest issue. If we're saying that the sanctity of life is not something that concerns us, that we're not fighting for, I don't know what other policy will have a lifelong impact on us. We can discuss all kinds of other issues, but if the sanctity of human life is not in check, then we have really no other predictability in our life. And so we must get that, we must fight for the sanctity of human life.
Mr. Bansa?
For me, social issues are paramount, and I'm going to fight for those to the nth degree. But talking about the local issues here, what I have learned meeting with people more and more is that the issues like we have lost too many manufacturing jobs from the area. And as we have been seeing them going away in the last 10 years, we have lost many. And if I look at the district, Joliet and Aurora are the biggest loser of those jobs, manufacturing jobs, and now we are seeing service jobs going away. So as country is starting to get some of the jobs back, my first thing will be to bring those jobs back here in the area, and as well as stop the service jobs that are being sent offshore. When a job is sent offshore, we lose the job and we lose the revenue and we lose everything. So I'm looking to fight for those. I'm looking to bring them back because that's going to bring the prosperity back, and also as well as fight for the safety and security, I mean, with the opioid and the other issues that are going around here.
Actually, that's something I wasn't going to ask about, but now that you brought it up, that is obviously a big deal. The economy and the future of the economy that we're talking about a lot here in Joliet. So, at the federal level, let me just say, and we can both of you can answer. What do you think are the things that we have to do at the federal level to address that issue?
For the jobs? So, interestingly, our country, one of the biggest reasons our country lost most of the manufacturing jobs, other than the situation we have in Illinois, one of them was tariffs. And when, with the uneven tariffs, it was never a level playing field in the last 20 or 30 years. And I'll give you a quick example. If you make a car here for $20,000 and export it to China, they'll put 100% tariff, that'll be $40,000, versus a company can go and make a car there and bring it back for pretty much the same amount. So that killed our manufacturing industry more and more, and our taxes were very high. So in the last few years, and it's been last 2 or 3 years, we have reduced our corporate taxes. That has helped us bring a lot of jobs back, and as well as the tariffs are now being challenged and they're becoming even. So we are seeing a lot of these companies. I've been watching very closely the world economy, world CEOs. I've been watching all those, and companies are looking to come back here. As they're coming back here, responsibility of the representative or the rep here will be to bring them back to our area. Otherwise, they will go to other states. They will go to other areas. So that's what I see that needs to be done and that need to happen. And I did mention about the service jobs earlier as well.
Okay, Mr. Laib?
Same. If we're getting rid of these tariffs, all we're doing is basically providing some type of incentive for other businesses to take over. So we want to roll back these tariffs, and we want the government to be getting out. That's what a free market does. The economy will always determine, the market will always determine the value of different kinds of goods and services. They don't need to be subsidized by the government. The government needs to get out of these things. But when it comes to these subsidies that seem, I think on the face, are attractive, come different forms of regulation. And that slows down all the steps that go with any type of business, whether it's production or manufacturing or delivery or anything like that. So we need to get the government out of this, out of business, out of the free market business, roll back tariffs, roll back these type of regulations, and let the free market just operate. It will always balance out.
So there's something, it sounds like something that you guys both disagree with the president on, because obviously he's the main pusher of tariffs. I think it's safe to say, unless you disagree with what I've said.
No, I never said I disagree with President. What I said was President did a great job pushing China to roll down the tariffs. And the only way that could have been done was to equalize them, because China was not really listening to us. And now when we did it, they are bringing it down. The new trade deals are getting done. So I do agree with the president to take on China to make this happen. Otherwise, we would have lost everything.
Okay.
Well, I'm not disagreeing that the president has enacted tariffs against China. I understand what you're saying. But I think there are some other things at play. Just that he's trying to control some intellectual domain, intellectual property that he's trying to advance on, and he's trying to kind of curtail. So I guess I'm not in disagreement. I understand what you're saying, but I would be disagreeing.
Okay. One of the things I know, especially like a lot of the media narratives that people say voters care a lot about is healthcare, and that's obviously a very raging debate over on the Democratic side. If anybody watches the presidential debates, but just kind of curious, this is a big deal. Maybe the first year in 2017 of the president's tenure. So what are the things you guys want to do to address in terms of healthcare at the federal level? Mr. Laib, start with you.
So I think you're correct. There is a debate on the Democratic side, because what they're debating is to what degree and how involved they should be. And so I'm taking the opposite view. I think the government should get out of healthcare. I don't think I even need to qualify that. I don't need to say to what degree. I think the government should get out of healthcare. People have, for years, been able to come up with their own different kinds of plans with their employers, or just insurance providers, and work out what is the best insurance program that works for them. And so we want to see the government get their hands out of that.
Just as a quick follow-up, and I've heard you, both of you, talk about this at various forums I've seen about government has to get out of such and such a sector. So what about Medicare and Medicaid? Where does that leave those programs if you say the government has to get out of healthcare?
I understand. Okay, well then, I'll do this. Let's keep the Medicare and Medicaid, but let's not expand it. This is, again, still part of the conversation. I understand that people have been putting into that and paying those kinds of, for those fees for some time. I understand that. But largely, that's really not the issue of where healthcare is going as far as people getting out of it. The government needs to get out of, when I say the government needs to get out of healthcare, I believe that people are able to work through their own programs on their own, generally speaking. Now, I understand what Medicare and Medicaid have done for state employees, for retirees, things that have been putting in for some time. So I would still like to see the government get out of that program. It doesn't need to be an immediate action that needs to be taken. But overarchingly, we have to focus on and understand that people can work out their own best insurance programs when they do that with their insurance providers. So you say, well, what about Medicare and Medicaid? Well, this is the government getting involved. We want to see the government stepping out. And I don't know what time frame that would look like. I don't know what the healthiest version would be. But we would still want to say, yeah, we want to get them out. People can work together with their insurance providers. They can always do that, whether we're their medical providers. I do not see, I'm not persuaded to believe that you say, well, we're still working on a program that's going to be better if Medicaid and Medicare. I understand that people have been putting into that. I understand that not just leaving people hanging. I understand that. But overarchingly, we want to see the government getting out of this program.
So just to be clear, don't get rid of Medicare right away, but eventually phase those programs
We
out.
need to, right, yeah, I understand, yeah, we're working on a goal. What is our goal? The goal is what's best, and the goal will be to get the government out of the healthcare business.
Okay. Mr. Bansa?
So, this is one of the most complex issues that our country has been facing in recent times. And I have first-hand experience, being an employer, providing healthcare for many employees. I have seen this evolving, and when affordable healthcare was implemented, since then, I have seen our insurance costs gone up 300% or 3 times. And it has become, and of course, along with the deductibles have gone up, and it's a problem. And when we had exchanges were created, when we had the state lines built and all those, this has created enormous amount of problems. Government does not know how to run business. Government should not be in the business of running business. Government should be, what is the role of government? The role of government should be to protect us, to create necessary infrastructure and provide governance, not really running a business. And in this case, they start running into business. And that really is the starting of pseudo-socialism. We should not have government do it. The state lines should be removed. The insurance company should be allowed to operate in a way they were operating, and then provide more freedom. This is going to bring the cost down. Now, there is an issue about the prescription drug, which I have always been very vocal about. There is a lot of work going on there. If the same drug is available across the border, we need to really work with our companies that they should not be overcharging here. So, not putting a regulation, but really coming up with a solution on that. They cannot do that. So that is one part. But the second question, your follow-up was about the Medicare, and what really comes in along with the Social Security as well. This is the money that people save all their life. In fact, it is not government. It is people contributing and their employers contributing for them when they need that money. Now, issue is when government keeps that money and they try to take loan against it, then it becomes a problem. What I see a better solution on that is that should be turned into let people manage that money, like 401k style or something around that. The solution can be derived where it is not left for the government to deal with that money. The safety net programs have to be there. We need safety net programs, but what we don't need is, we don't need government to be managing that money because they don't know how to manage money best, and they get into overspending or borrowing against it and creating a lot more problems for us.
So like a health savings account?
Health savings account, perfect, yeah. You need health savings account, or even a lot of people have invested. I have invested for so many years. All of us have invested that money. It's not that we are, a portion of our pay gets to that program. Now, my suggestion to that as well is that let us have the freedom to manage that money. We don't want this to be the similar issue as we are seeing in state of Illinois here, the pension issue, where whenever government has access to money and they try to keep and run that money, that gets into problem. Let trust our people. It's their money. Let them give them means to manage that money.
Okay. So okay, just to understand, Medicare and Medicaid, you want to change those programs to make it more of a health savings program so people can save their own money to use for their healthcare.
That is true, and more for the Medicare. And there are times where where the safety net is needed, when someone can't afford it all, or they have to go to ER and all those. There are things that have to be provided, I understand, but our nation is not a nation that will let anyone die. But on the other hand, we don't want government to start dictating or creating, telling us, or taking that money and running it in a way that is not efficient.
You said something that was kind of interesting to me when you said, we have to do something about prescription drug prices.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you say we have to work with those companies,
right,
meaning the government. But you said not regulation.
Well, what needs to happen is at this point we have so there is always I'm trying to get the right term for that. There is a lock-in period when a company comes up with a new drug. That time frame, if that time frame is here for 6 years or 8 years, and if they go out in any other country and they try to reduce that and sell it at a lower price, or the other companies start selling it, it becomes, we get onto a disadvantage. We cannot have our citizens at a disadvantage when it gets to the drug pricing. If it is the same pricing everywhere in the world, then I understand. But if Canada is selling the same drug at half the price or a quarter of a price, I don't understand. I mean, that should not happen, and that should be seen as someone taking an undue advantage.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, there's a couple things that could be done here just by way of more transparency. So to say that no regulation means absence of regulation, I guess the regulation would be to remove regulation. Again, going back to these free market ideas, there's all kinds of restraints that are being put in, even any kind of pharmaceutical that comes up. Are we allowing for generic drugs to be taken out? Are there other kinds of systems that are put in place that are keeping actual drugs to hit the market? So I think there are things that we can be doing that can, again, make the pharmaceutical drugs more accessible to the people, more available, and at cheaper costs.
Okay. One of the things that Republicans like to talk a lot about is the state of our budget deficit and our debt on the national level. I think it's in excess of $20 trillion. It's a big thing that a lot of conservatives are very concerned about. But I think some of the latest, I'm not an expert in this area, but some of the latest estimates have our annual deficits upwards of $1 trillion. So how do we address that big issue? Because people from both parties have been wanting to do it, and for years now it just hasn't been done. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Laib, how do we solve that issue?
Yeah, we need to start reassessing what we're spending our money on. So there are a couple of things here. What are we spending our money on? Are we funding programs that are underperforming? Are we looking at those, and are we willing to pull programs that are underperforming? 2, are we embracing all of the areas that could be privatized? There are many areas of our government right now that could be privatized, and we can do it for a lot less. And we're not looking at those. We're just kind of blowing past those. But again, that would be employing the free market. The free market can do things for a far more inexpensive route than the government can do many different times. But we're not even embracing that. So we have to start looking at that. We have to look at what we're spending on. We have to look at programs that are underperforming. We have to look at embracing the idea of privatization. And then, again, there are so many things that we're spending on because the government has its hand in so many different things. We need to restrict and restrain the role of government in our lives. And if we can pull those things back, so will the price tag for the services that the government provides.
So it sounds like your big remedy there is to cut stuff from the budget.
So that's correct. And I said anything that's, even just what you said, that's no different than any kind of functioning or thriving business, any kind of healthy household budget. We cannot spend money that we don't have. So I remember when we were growing up, I had 4 brothers and a sister, and my dad said, if I had the money, we could have steaks every single night. We don't have the money. Peanut butter and jelly, everybody. So if you have the money, you can spend it. If you don't, then you can't. But we seem to do that in our homes. We seem to do that in our businesses that thrive. We do it at most of our active institutions, except the government. For some reason, we're getting a pass. We're not checking ourselves. We're not balancing our budget. These are very simple steps. And so, yes, we have to cut things. We cannot just keep spending things as if there's no end to this checkbook.
So you basically gave an answer to this question about, we could start by phasing out Medicare. That healthcare is a huge part of the federal budget, but anything else specific that you think that?
I don't think. Well, I guess I'm not in a position to give some specifics off the top here. There are several studies that have been done. There's several recommendations that can be given as far as things that are underperforming as far as our government is concerned.
Okay, Mr. Bansa.
Okay, so I grew up in a culture, or I come from a background where I've been taught from the day I got any senses. We can only spend money. We only spend money after saving it for the bad times. So there's no way I really don't understand when someone goes in and spends more what they have. And if I can't do it, our governments, they're using our own money. It's our people's money. They should be even more conservative about it. And unfortunately, what we have seen is they have over the period of years have been spending more and more, and we have gone upward of almost 23 trillion. What we are hearing the number, it goes on every year. This has to come down. Not only we have to stop the deficit from going up, it has to start coming down. Now, what can be done? That's a great question around there. And my personal philosophy, what I have published and on my opinion and everywhere on my website is that we should start with 5% cut across the board. We have to start looking at, there is fluff in every spending, everywhere in every department. So we need to do that. We need to do a forensic audits in certain departments where the money is going waste. And Medicare, I'll never say that, I'm not looking to say that Medicare should be phased out, but if there is a waste going on in there, the money is getting paid to the fraudulent claims or something, those have to be looked at, and we'll find a huge saving out there. So that is extremely important. That'll be a good start to go with. And then, of course, if there are, we can consolidate government departments. If there are too many government bodies now at this point, we should look at start consolidating them and bringing in the value.
So 5% cut across the board.
5% cut across the board.
Including defense?
Depends. Defense as much wherever needed. Defense has certain sectors. I'm not saying cut down defense on paying our personnel or buying. But if there is some waste going on in there, we'll have to look at it.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask about defense spending, because besides the Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, in terms of discretionary spending, obviously defense is the largest piece of that pie.
It is.
And even a lot of liberals say we have to cut defense spending. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I wouldn't say cut defense spending. We're trying to protect our nation here. Everything Trump has done, the president has done, is to build back our militaries. They have been slashed for years, so I don't think now is the time to start saying, okay, we're going to go back to cutting. They have been cut. Their budgets have been cut. So we still need to protect the United States. So there still has to be some kind of protection in place. I don't know why that would be the first thing to go on the chopping block. There's many other kind of programs, and again, you asked for some examples. Even while I'm thinking here, I'm thinking of different programs that we fund. For example, Planned Parenthood. Why are we giving money to an organization that's taking more lives instead of turning out more?
To be fair, I don't think there's a line item in the budget that says this is specifically for Planned Parenthood. They get compensated for care like any other healthcare provider.
So
you say just don't compensate them for care.
Then let's not give any money, right? I understand what they're saying that they're providing, but there's still the main program of Planned Parenthood is to provide abortions for people. So this
they say
in
it's
my
only
mind,
2% of their services, to be fair.
That's what they say?
That's what they say.
Well, that must be true if that's what they're saying.
I would say, I guess my point would be I can't imagine that's going to be anywhere near $1 trillion. So, maybe.
I don't think that's the only thing. We're talking about underperforming. So let's suppose that Planned Parenthood says, no, we're here for women's health care. It would say, okay, fine. Most of what you do is to provide abortions. That's, in my mind, underperforming, and that would be an example of something that we can cut. Now, can we get $22 trillion out of that? No, we cannot. But I wouldn't say that I would take that first over the military. So we want to build up our military, but we need to look at programs that are underperforming.
Now, again, just to be fair, on the Planned Parenthood point, is that also you're denying compensation for care for any provider who provides abortions?
We should not be providing abortions. I don't know why the government is funding that.
So no, Medicare, Medicaid, none of that can pay for anything?
No, yeah, we cannot. We have to stop this business about saying that it's okay to take the life of a human being. So I don't care what it looks like. I don't care who's funding it. We can't. We have to stop that.
Would you agree?
So, I do agree, but let me come back to your defense where we started.
Sure.
The main question where we started with. And I do agree that our military, our defense spending was, we didn't modernize for a big period of time. And in last few years, our President Trump, he took the initiative, and we are seeing our military being re-strengthened. We are in a growth mode. We are in a re-strengthening mode as it is necessary, as we have seen some of the rogue nations, how they are coming up or becoming threats. And of course, the terrorism, the radical terrorism has been a big threat at this point. So we need to be prepared for that. So, and I sincerely believe that the biggest job of a commander-in-chief president or a government is to protect its own citizens. And if they can't protect their own citizens from outside threats, they will fail. So I'm not in favor of cutting the direct spend, but there are, of course, indirect spends that goes in Pentagon and other areas that should be looked at, and they should be, audit should be done again. We have to look at critically line by line item. It is very difficult to say for me to make a statement, oh, cut this or cut that. We have to go line by line item, look at where there is an unnecessary fluff of money that's being spent or it's being wasted. We need to take it back from there.
Okay. So just to be clear, in terms of defense spending, you're not necessarily saying 5% cut across the board there, but do an audit, look and see where.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on from that, because another thing that I know, again, a lot of Democrats have a lot of debates over, and I'm just curious about your guys' opinion when it comes to this, climate change, climate crisis. Okay. I know not everybody in your party necessarily even wants to acknowledge its existence, but I'm just curious, where do you stand on it? What should the government do, if anything?
Well, first of all, there is no crisis. When we can call anything a crisis, we can name it and people start thinking it's a crisis. The climate is cyclical in nature. We have a responsibility to take care of our environment, which our country has been doing that better than anyone else in the world. We have, as per whatever the standards that were laid out in the Paris Accord, we are meeting or exceeding them. So we are doing all that. But now, what I don't agree on is that that our country or our taxpayer dollars should be spent to fix the problems of other countries are creating. If they are not adhering to their environmental standards, we are not liable to work on those. Or we should not be spending. In fact, we should be using the diplomatic efforts, or the world body should come together and ask the countries where like the more development is going on, like India or China and countries in the Asian region, where half the world's population is living, to be responsible and spend to take care of those things. I don't agree on that our taxpayer dollars should be sent out and spent on to fix problems that other countries are creating.
Okay, so the one thing that I heard there, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you do think that we should be holding up to as the United States, we should be holding up to the standards of the Paris Climate Accords.
Well, what I believe is, it's our responsibility. Like we keep our house clean, we keep our office clean. This is what the thing is. We do the basic sanitation and hygiene is necessary, and that we are doing, and we are actually exceeding, and we've always done that.
Okay.
So it's nothing. Now, even I'll go even a step ahead. If any of our company or industry is found violating those, we should take action against those. I'm not against keeping the basic hygiene, sanitization, or keeping our environment clean. That is something, it is good for all of us. But what I don't agree on is the hype that is being built that there is a huge issue about the climate change going on. I don't agree on to that.
Okay, Mr. Laib.
So I agree. I think if you have a crisis, that allows us to fund it, right? They say, oh, okay, now we have a crisis. So I don't think there's a crisis, and I don't even think there's a consensus. I think there's a lot of good data, and I think there's experts on both sides who are saying, look, this is what's happening to our Earth, and then there's counter views. So I don't think that there's a consensus. So then I would suggest that the role of government then is to step out of what's happening here. There are many, many technologies that are being discovered, that are worked on, that are being produced. There are very good procedures in place to help care for our planet. But those have all come, by the way, of private organization, private businesses. So it would seem to me then the attractive role for government, because this is something that they can do, is to lower their taxes. If they lower their taxes, organizations will be in a better position to fund their research. If they can come up with better research, then it will naturally, something that people will step into. So we can naturally embrace these different technologies that are coming up. But if the government can get involved and can take an active role by lowering the taxes and allowing people more resources with which to come up with these different kinds of technologies.
So when you say there's no consensus on the climate crisis, what do you mean by that?
There are some people, there are experts, I guess, on both sides. So you'd say, whatever the standard is, if you'd said, tell me, let's say, suppose you and I were discussing this, and you said, I think there's a crisis. And I would have said, what standard? And you had said, well, maybe these white papers were being released. these experts, there's this different conference that came out and everybody is saying that there's a crisis, then I would show you an alternate version. I would say, these papers also came out that said there's no crisis, that there is, these conferences are being held. So that's why I say there's no consensus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I know I'm sure a lot of liberals, again, would say that, I think it's like the statistic that they rattle off is like 97% of peer-reviewed papers on this issue have determined that climate change is the real thing and it's human-made. So I think a lot of people
I'm not
say
persuaded that that's true. And again, even if it is, let's suppose that it is. We have to do something. Somebody says, look, things are happening. We have to get involved. By what standard? It's going to require funding. Good. The government should step out of funding. Let's come up with things that are actually persuasive instead of forcing people to take some kind of action.
Okay. Let's talk about politics, because obviously, as you both know, you guys are running in a relatively blue district. I think Representative Foster, the last couple times he went for re-election, won by at least double digits. Why are you the best person to flip the seat blue to red, Mr. Laib?
Because I run on a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-free market candidate. These are the type of things that will turn things around. And even if Mr. Foster can still run, he's still running, he's running his race, he's run it before, but the other side has to be articulated. People have to say what's going on. We have to embrace this idea of truth. What are the areas that we keep making up different versions of words that are coming out? What are the different truths that we're embracing here? So I don't think that we're moving into an area of, actually we're moving away from an area of objective truth. And I start with pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. I think these are both areas that Mr. Foster has not embraced, he's not worked for. As a matter of fact, he's taken action to hurt a pro-life and pro-Second Amendment view. So if we're trying to move back to an area of predictability and reliability in our country, we have to have these things. They have to be in place. We have to embrace freedom of religion. Again, this is something that Mr. Foster has not embraced. He's not worked for, and he's taken steps to hurt people who want to embrace the freedom of religion. So those are the kinds of things that we need to be looking at. We need to look at a candidate that's in the best position to do that.
Just to follow up on that, I think a lot of, obviously, Republicans would agree with you that he hasn't represented those views, but yet, like I said, he's won in this district over and over again. So how do you change that? Because the voters apparently aren't responding to this.
So then the other alternative is to say, well, let's just stay home because nobody can beat him. Somebody has to, maybe now's the time. Maybe now is the time that people are seeing what's going on and they want an attractive option. They keep saying, look, this is not working. The things that he's producing the things that he's bringing is not working. Maybe they have not, maybe the other candidates have not been as persuasive at the time. Maybe I don't know, what to say. I don't know how to respond to why other people haven't voted for other candidates at the time. If they have voted for Mr. Foster in the past, then they're going to vote for him. But it's no different than any other kind of business. You make a sandwich shop, and I make a sandwich shop. If people like your sandwiches, they buy your sandwiches. They like mine, then they can buy mine. But that's the glory of our electoral system here. So you do the best you can. You run on a strong platform. You tell the people what you believe. You run what you think will turn the country around and to produce a thriving culture. And that's how you do it.
Okay, Mr. Bansa?
It's a great question, what you asked. And in fact, yes, I do believe in all these values. I'm 100% pro-life and pro-Second Amendment, believe completely and practice the freedom of religion. And in fact, what I will say is our past two candidates, they believed as much I did and everyone else did. Dr. Stella or Tanya Puri, they were rated as conservative as we are. The issue is the way this district is drawn. It's not that easy to defeat. And if it was that easy to defeat, then other people have won. And in fact, I'll just read a quote. Ms. Ronald Reagan's good friend Martin Blackwell said, "You can't govern if you don't win." And to bring in all these values, to do anything, we need to win first. How do we do it? We need to have a plan. And I have a plan. And I've been working on the ground. And for last many years, I've been working. I've built outreach programs to go into. So let's look at what the makeover of this district is. Why can't we win this district? The makeover of this district is, it's a very heavily, a lot of minorities live in this district. 25% plus Hispanic population, 10% African American, and 10% Asian American. That amounts to a lot of people. And most of these people don't come out and vote. Why don't they come out and vote? For a couple of reasons. One is like either they are not educated enough or they're frustrated and they don't know what to do. I have been working on the ground with all these people. I'm trying to bring them out, and I've been working with them. I connect with them. I relate with them. I'm a first generation immigrant. I'm a small business owner. See we have the similar issues, and I've been working, connecting with them. We have to bring these people out, and I've been doing it. I've been very successful till now. I do organize many, educational, cultural, many events where thousands and thousands of people come. I've been very successful in connecting. I do organize a lot of civic forums where I've seen it. And this is the time I think that I will be able to do. I've already been working with the leaderships and people around in the communities, whether it's Aurora, Naperville, Joliet, and around here. I've been working on the ground. That's the way we will take it on. That's how we will do it. It is the outreach, and not only that, I'm working on a plan. One of the things why other candidates couldn't win in past elections was Foster comes with a lot of money. And as much we can say that, money is not needed, but it's really to meet the dollar. We cannot run the election on pennies when Foster has dollars. We have to work hard. I'm looking to put support. I'm looking to raise a lot of money. And the reason we need money is so we can reach people. To send this one single mailer to people, it costs a lot of money. If I'm not able to raise money, people will not know me who I am, and they will again not come out. I need people who can, I need yard signs. I need to be able to reach in multiple ways. I've been hosting coffee events in every neighborhood. Since I started, I've been working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, just for this. I've asked my family to help me with my business, and they're doing that. I'm 100% focused on it. I'm reaching out to voters, electorate, talking to them, understanding what their issues are. That's the way this can be won. I'm working on the ground. I'm raising money. I'm bringing people along, and I'm building that consensus. And of course, my values are going to be my values. I'm going to defend. And my experience with my business, creating employment, the ideas around how to bring the jobs back, and really how to really rebuild the education system. Those things are really people are looking for. So I'm very positive that I'll be able to do that.
You brought up something I actually did want to ask about. So about kind of the diversity within the district, I think, is very undeniable. Sitting here in Joliet, Aurora, Naperville, as you quoted there, you had the exact statistics about the percentages of people of color in the district. But I think there is a general consensus, just looking at just raw data, that Republicans have had historically more trouble attracting voters of color to vote for them. So you started touching on there. So I guess why would you be the person to garner a more diverse voting coalition to help, again, hopefully flip the seat?
Well, because they will see me. That's what I am. And I had no issues with the Republican Party. I've been working with them for many years. And I see that it's not, yes, the Republican Party, in fact, is a party that was formed to fight for the civil liberties created by Abraham Lincoln. And it fought civil liberties. It was the party of minority. It has been the party of minorities in the last few years, or last couple of decades, that the perception has turned around. Maybe a few people in the Republican Party did it, or Democrats did a better job using the media. I don't know what the issue may be, but underlying, we are still the same, and I see no difference. All these minorities, most of them, they're very conservative when it comes to the family values and social values. They all are looking for a growth. They don't want government to be getting into their life. It is just a matter of getting to them, connecting with them, and they will come and work with us. And as I said, my story is a real American story. That's how I can connect with them. A lot of people in this district are first generation or second generation immigrants, and I feel very connected with them. I work with them day to day, every day.
Okay. Same to you, Mr. Laib.
Well, I don't think there's any denying that people vote on these different areas of diversity that you're saying. But that's not what I'm banking on. Krishna said a couple times that his is a real American story. Well, mine's an American story here. I was born in America. I was raised in America. I served in America. I fought to protect our country. So again, this is an American story. What I'm running on are good ideas. You need to be able to expose the bankruptcy of the opposite agenda. If we're saying, look, at these different ideas are hurting us. You're just looking at a bumper sticker. That's what they're marketing. This is what let's poke through. Some of these arguments are tissue paper thin of what people are asking for, what they're trying to get people to line up to buy, to sell, these kind of ideas. So it would seem to me then that an attractive candidate would be able to connect with people, but intellectually as well, and saying, look, these are the different ideas. Show them where they're falling short. Show them how their lives could be different if they're looking at some other different, something other than these kind of this food that they've been given for years.
Okay.
I'd just like to quickly follow up on that as well. I'm looking at not the deficit of the other side. I'm looking at we have to come up with our own ideas to attract people. Another thing is, as you mentioned about the Republican Party. Republican Party they do support, and the classic example is right now. I have endorsements from the leadership, national, state, and local. Almost 60 people have endorsed me, the Republican leaders elected and in the party positions. That the whole list is on the website, and they are really looking to work with us. I don't see a reason. If they were not looking to work with a person of color, they would have not come with me. And in fact, I've been working very closely. Naperville Township has endorsed me. That's unheard of. They don't do it usually because I work there. I work on the ground with people. So this is what we are looking. Wheatland Township is there, or Downers Township. All these townships I've been working with their candidates every day. I don't see an issue. I see a lot of people of color working with me. In fact, in my team itself, I have a very diverse team I have. And we all are very accepted within the Republican Party. It is just the messaging somehow that has been played. It has to be fixed. I believe this is the time where we bring back and we will work and we will win this district at this time.
Okay. Let's wrap up here. Maybe last, a couple of minutes. We want to make a closing statement as to why people should vote for you. Mr. Bansa will go with you, and then Mr. Laib, you can.
Sure. It was thank you for asking great questions. You brought up a lot of thought-intriguing things. What I believe in is our country is in a recovery mode at this point, but we need to really work. The role of a representative, I'll go back to the role of a representative is to represent people. We haven't seen Representative Foster being available here. He doesn't show up. Whenever we need, in fact, when people come to me to ask for help, I go to his office and say, please help us, and we don't get anything. We need representatives who are connected, who are working with people right here. If they can go out and ask for, understand what people's will is. Not just vote with a party line. Not just do a few bills here and there. You need to work for people. And I have, even before being elected, I've been hosting a lot of these public coffee events. And when I meet people, they are like really very happy about it. And I'm hearing a lot of good things. As I started earlier, I got a chance to meet with someone from Soviet Union who grew up in there, telling horror stories, and they were like, with tears in her eye, why would you do this? This is an evil. But anyway, so that keeps me connected. I'm hearing about the jobs, my experience along with it, the support I have. I think that this is time, the kind of campaign I'm building, this is going to be the winning, but I need help from everyone. I'm trying to reach every single person in the district, and I will. We have walked almost 25,000 doors at this point. We have signs, we are running a good social media campaign, and as I said, we are reaching out to every person. We will look forward for your support, for everyone's support. A lot of my other information is available on my website, krishnaforcongress.com, and social media, Krishna for Congress. I'll look forward for support. Early voting is going on, and voting is on March 17th. Look forward for help.
Mr. Laib.
Yes, again, thank you. Thank you for having this time here. What I would encourage them to look for is a candidate who will see what it is that they want from their government. And I think what our government was designed to do and should do, and it's best when it does this, which is two things: provide for true freedom and restrain evil. We need to limit ourselves here. So we want to step up self-reliance and limit our government. And that's why I'm running. I want to do that, and I think that I'm the best candidate to do that. I run pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. I'm a pro-free market candidate. I want to see the government restrain itself. I want to encourage people to be more self-reliant and to be more free. And that will come in this particular context by restraining our government. So I'm available to the people. They can learn more about me at ricklive2020.com, and look forward to speaking with people.
Okay. I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know it's obviously very busy on the campaign trail, but thank you so much for answering our questions.